Today, we're going to be adding SQLite into our Xamarin and mobile applications to create a database so we can store data offline so our users can access it anytime. So tune in. Hey everyone, I'm James Montemagno and I'm back with another Xamarin 101 video. If you're brand new to the channel, I'm James Montemagno. I'm a longtime Xamarin developer and I've been doing a Xamarin 101 series building out everything you need to know from file new to adding databases like we are today to build awesome mobile applications with C# and Visual Studio and .NET. Now, if you are new, don't forget that there's an entire series of goodness over here, so definitely take a look at that. And also down the show notes, there's been tons of great episodes, and I'm listening to what you all want in the comments below, and databases have been a top priority as well. Now I'm going to go into SQLite today, but I'm going to talk about a bunch of different databases. So in future episodes, we can take a look at those and additionally see how to access a web service, pull down data and store it locally. So this is the foundation of our mobile application. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel and ding that notification bell. Not only does that help the channel, but you'll get notified every single time I put out a new episode. So let's get started. All right, so there's a lot of different choices for data caching and mobile data storage. And over on my Xamarin Plugins GitHub repo, this is sort of like a community repo of just kind of awesome stuff that you can have access to that I've sort of listed. All sorts of good things like Xamarin Essentials, Shiny, a bunch of great community plugins that are available. And then here I have some things like data caching and databases that you can use in your mobile apps. So things like Akavash, Cosmos DB, LightDB, Monkey Cache, which is a library I created, which is just caching, not a database, Realm, and SQLite-net. And SQLite-net is by my good friend Frank Kruger, which you may know from our podcast together, Merge Conflict. He also built amazing apps like iCircuit 3D and Calca and Continuous. So definitely give him a follow at Proclarum. I'll put his Twitter account down in the show notes. But we're going to be taking a look at SQLite-net. Now, SQLite is sort of the core database technology that is on every single device, basically, pretty much. And SQLite-net is an ORM, or an object relational mapper. ORM, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Leave me comments below if I'm wrong. But an ORM for C# and .NET, so you can have access to all sorts of niceties to access the SQLite database. So your CRUD operations, your create, reads, updates, and deletes are the things that we're doing every single day. This has an asynchronous and an asynchronous version to it, and we're going to take a look at the asynchronous version because we're already kind of asyncified anyways. But SQLite-net's been around for a very, very long time. In fact, Frank and I met at a Xamarin meetup talking about SQLite-net and different technologies to store data, which is funny enough. And here we are, I don't know, 8 years later, still talking about SQLite-net. So this is a .NET standard library. You can use it anywhere in any .NET application, even on the web if you want to, but it's all there for you. There is a single PCL .NET standard version here, which is called SQLite-net PCL. It is actually a .NET standard library. Don't be confused by the name, just Frank's naming here. And as of this recording, at least, we're going to use the latest stable 1.7.335 that's available. And this thing's been around for a while with over 5.5 million downloads, so we're good to go. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is make sure that we install that NuGet, okay? Now, when you search for SQLite-net PCL, you're going to get a lot of SQLite, or if you just search for SQLite, but you want this one from Frank Kruger, okay? So this is the one, it's literally by him, 5.5 million. And we can see over here that this is linked directly to that GitHub page, okay? So the author is not Frank specifically, but SQLite-net, so you kind of tie those together. There is one dependency, which is the SQLite raw, and this is what accesses the underlying systems of iOS and Android. So it's kind of cool, this kind of runs on everything. And you want to install it in every project. That's really important because iOS and Android have different ways of accessing that core underlying system. Now, one thing I like to do is create a service, okay, for database access, also web services, things like that. So I called this the coffee service over here. And I just scaffolded out very simple methods, okay? Nothing too crazy. I have an init, all right? I have an add coffee, remove coffee, and get coffee. So that's it. So those are the things that are going to go in here and be returned. So let's take a look at the documentation here, because Frank did a great job of documenting it. The first thing that we'll notice is that he has some data that he's going to store in his database. Here he has a stock and evaluation. Every single item that you need to store in a database has to have a primary key. And these usually auto increment because they automatically go up in value, and SQLite-net will handle that for you automatically. So you can have as many, things as there are integers, so a whole bunch of them. You'll also notice here that he has this thing called indexed. And in the world of databases that are relational, this is a way of relating two pieces of data together usually. And in this instance here, we have an ID and then a stock ID. So you may query valuations and say, let me get all my stack IDs. So that's how they're joining together. Now that index doesn't have anything to do with the joining or any relationship at all. What it has to have, or what it does, is it really helps the database index the specific property for speed and querying capabilities. So it just creates a different index that it knows to query quickly. So if you have too many indexes, that can also slow down your database, but in general, index where appropriate, and note that the primary key is already a indexed item. So let's start there before we get into the database, because we need to go into our coffee that is sitting over here and add a property. So let's go ahead and paste that in. And this is going to be the same for all of them. It's just an ID. And I'm going to bring in using SQLite-net. And there we go. This is a C# attribute, which is a special property that Frank created. It has a bunch of different ones like the indexed and primary key and auto incrementer that. And at compile time, that helps his library figure out that we marked it as a primary key and auto increment. So that way we don't have to say public auto increment primary key ID. That's an integer. Like, no, it's just an integer. And this will tell SQLite-net what to do. Now, if we go back to the documentation, there's a synchronous API and also an asynchronous API. Now, in this instance, we're going to use asynchronous. I talked to Frank before recording this episode, and he said, go all in on the async. So I said, I will. I've used the synchronous API in almost all my applications, and I've also used the asynchronous API, just depending on when I created it. But in general, one's asynchronous, which has async awaits inside of it, and one is synchronous. If you're doing lots and lots and lots of database access, you probably want to do the asynchronous one. Just in general, the thing to note about the synchronous one is that, for me at least, I'd put locks around each of my data access, so that way if I was accessing it multiple times, I wouldn't run into a deadlock. At the asynchronous version of it, you're good to go. So this is nice. We're going to literally create a file on disk. Okay, and Frank shows us how to use the my documents, my data.db. Here he's going to create a SQLite async connection to his database and then create tables. That's it. We'll see that he has things like async, update, delete, all that goodness. So here's what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just simply copy this code, because why not? And I'm going to show you what I do in my coffee service. In my init, we are going to create our database and our tables. So we're just going to go ahead and copy and paste that in there and say, yeah, that's probably okay. That's good. If you want a little bit more granular control over this, instead of using environment variables, you can actually use file helpers, which is part of Xamarin Essentials. So if I go ahead and bring in xamarin.essentials.file system, we have an app data directory, which is also something I recommend using. So if you want a very granular sort of recommended place of storing the app data directory or a cache directory, you can specify those, and this will map it correctly there. So it's up to you, but definitely double check where you're putting your data. So that's my data.db. You can have as many databases as you want. So again, we're going to create this SQL async connection. I've put this inside of a static class, so I just have a single, version of it that's floating around my app. And what that means is I'm going to go ahead and say static SQLite async connection DB, and we're just going to create it once. We only need to create one connection. We can leave it open and access it at any time. So that means if DB does not equal null, because we already created it, don't create it again. All right. Now, once we have access to our database, we can do all sorts of goodies. So here I can say DB dot. I can do things like backup asynchronously, which is pretty awesome, actually. Create indexes, create tables. I can do deletes. I can drop tables. I can execute queries. I can get things, do all sorts of good stuff, okay? And in this case, we're just going to go ahead and say create table async. And it's going to be of our new coffee, okay? And we're, of course, going to await on that. There we go. And we're done. Perfect. Now, you might be wondering, why do I have this init? What's the purpose? Well, the idea here is that I only want to ever call it and once to create the database once, but I don't want to worry about where do I call it? Should I call it on the startup of my application? I like to lazy load this thing. So what I'll do down here is I will simply say await init. And then I've awaited it. And now every single time someone calls into my, coffee service, I'll make sure that the database is created. All right, let's do some CRUD. I'm really excited about it. So let's go ahead and create some stuff. So we're going to create a new coffee here, and we'll say new coffee, name equals name, roaster equals roaster. And I do have an image. We're going to set it equal to image here, because if we go back to our coffee equipment, which had the hard-coded data inside of it, I can actually grab this image that we were just using locally so we can reuse it. Let's put it in there. Boom. All right. So now that we have our coffee created, you sort of guessed it, I'm going to await, and I'm going to say db.insert async. Now there is an insert all async, so you can insert multiple things or replace it as well. So that's another option there, but we're just going to insert this once because we're adding new records into our database, and we'll await. Now I also want you to note that this returns a integer because that's that auto incrementing ID. So if I want, I could actually say var ID equals and go ahead and put the ID there. Let's remove a coffee. If you've guessed it over here I have remove coffee. I have a ID that's inside of it, but I'm going to go ahead and say db.delete async. Okay. And here I can go ahead and give it a primary key that I want inside here. So I'm going to say that this is a coffee. I'm going to say ID, and I'll of course await on that. So it's going to look for that primary key. Okay. So that's going to go ahead and say, give me that primary key that I've specified. And it takes in an object, but we know it's an integer, and I'm going to pass that in to my item here. Now for my get coffee, this is going to return all my coffee. So let's go ahead and simply say await db. And we can just simply say get async, for example. That's a good one. We could say query async. This would go ahead and let us query all of the different items inside of here. If we take a look at the documentation, this will really show us how to get it. So for example, we can create a query that says, give me on said table where the symbol is a specific item, which is really cool, right? So we can say table, stock, give me everything that's back here. And then it creates this query, and we can execute on it. So what we can do here is we could do all sorts of different queries. We could say in here, we'll say coffee.to list async. Okay, just say on this table, give me everything back. Done. So we're not going to actually query on anything. We're just going to say, give me all the coffee. And in this case, we'll say var coffee equals, and we'll go ahead and return it, coffee. There we go. And here, I'm going to, of course, need to return an IEnumerable of coffee. There we go. Perfect. So now we have our coffee. we're returning our coffee, and we just created a database. Let me just be honest with you there. It's pretty much all we needed to do. We needed to go in, create our database right up top up here, give it a data path and directory to go to, create our connection, create our table, and we can make queries on top of it, okay? Just super cool. We insert our data. We don't need to do anything specific for the table because it knows it's a coffee, right? It knows that, hey, this is the coffee table. Go ahead and give me my coffee, give it back, right? Same thing with delete async. This is going to go basically look up the coffee that is in the coffee table. And then here, we're going to go ahead and say, give me all of the coffee on this list. And we're done. Now I have created a simple page over here that is a list of coffees. So I have a toolbar item that says add, that's going to hit this add command. Over here, I have the same exact list view that we've been using, where I'm going to have a list of coffees or refresh and display some stuff. And for good measure down here, let's just go ahead and put the ID in small, just to kind of put it out there so we can kind of see it in there. So we see the name, roaster, and the ID. And that's really it. I've also added the context menu to delete said coffee as well, so we can call all these methods. So this is in our view model, and we can see that I have a few things, such as an observable range collection of my coffees, refresh command, add command, remove command. So let's go ahead and look at the refresh command first, okay? So what we're going to do here is clear all of our coffees, and then I'm going to say var coffees equals, and you guess it, coffee service dot, bring in our coffee service over here. Oop. And now I can say add coffee, get coffee, remove coffee, okay? And of course, we're going to hit await on here. And now what we can do is we can say coffee dot add range. I'll say coffees. There we go. And now we have our coffees back. So we're good to go. Clear it out, do some stuff, we're good to go. Let's go ahead and remove a coffee. You guessed it, I'm literally just going to say await coffee service dot remove coffee. I'll say coffee.id, pass it in. Then I'm going to await refresh. There we go, refresh that view. Now we can go ahead and add a coffee. Now inside of Xamarin Forms, I'm using this display prompt, which will prompt me to add a name and a roaster inside of here. So let's go ahead and take said data, and then you guessed it, await coffee service dot add coffee, pass it the name, pass it the roaster, and await refresh, and we done. That's it. I'm just going to call those methods, and with everything all said and done, our database is ready to go. Our view model is calling into the service, so that way that database logic isn't locked into our view model. And now our application should be ready to go. So let's go ahead and bring up our emulator here. And again, since SQLite is included in Android and iOS and Windows and all these things, it's going to work directly in my emulator, which is really, really great. And of course, it's going to bring in all of those dependencies that we may have had earlier with our SQLite-net. Okay, cool. So here's our application, hopefully up and running here. And this isn't the database. Okay, this is just my other pages I had. I created a new entry here, which is my coffee. Okay, and it's blank. There's nothing in here. If I go ahead and add one, we'll say yes, please, and we'll just say, oh, that was the coffee, huh? Let's just say tasty coffee. Let's just do yes, please, yes, please. Okay, there we go. There it goes. Add it twice. Hit OK. All right, now this is cool. Okay, so we've created our coffee item here. So we have yes, please, yes, please. That's very unfortunate that I did that, but it's there. And let's go ahead and add another breakpoint down here and just hit F5. And what we're going to see is we have ID 1, okay, that automatically incremented for us. And now, if I go back over here and zoom out, what we're going to see, if I continue on, is that I have my coffee. Look at that, and it's 1. It's right there. Boom, 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 right? It's good to go. If I go ahead and add again, let's just say tasty coffee. And we'll just say that this is from, let's say, Blue Bottle. Okay, let's go ahead and add it in there. We're going to go ahead and see that we have our ID back as well for the coffee. We have our coffees that were returned. 1, 2. Okay. 1, 2 coming back here. I'll go ahead and zoom back out and we see 1 and 2 coming in here. Yes, please. Yes, please. So that's very, very cool. Now, if I go ahead and simply stop debugging this application and launch it again, this is where the sort of the magic happens. Is that we remember that we are storing these coffees into a database, which means that when I pull to refresh and query the database, there's my coffee. Okay, everything is there for me. If I go ahead and hold down and hit delete, we're now going to see that boom, there's our coffee again. It's gone. If I swipe it away and come back up one more time, we now will have only one coffee in our application. There we go. Pull to refresh and bang, after our 2-second wait, we have our new coffee that's right there. And that's it. We have tasty coffee, Blue Bottle, and everything you need all right there for me. Everything working offline with SQLite-net. It's really, really that easy to put data into your mobile application. I like to use this little service approach in my application logic so I can really just take that database, put it off to the side, not worry about where I'm creating it or anything like that. Anyways, I hope you found this video super duper delightful. I really enjoyed making it. I love using all of Frank's libraries. Tell me what you want to see. You know, my next episode's upcoming. We're going to take a look at pulling some data off the internet and putting it into our mobile application. We're going to take a look at searching. We're going to build out different tabs out of our application, navigation, all sorts of good things. But tell me what you're really interested in on your Xamarin adventure and journey. I'm going to be back every single week right here on my YouTube channel. So make sure that you subscribe and hit that notification bell. And oh, don't forget, hit that thumbs up button. I keep forgetting to mention that, but thumbs up and like it up, because if you do, that goes into the Google algorithm of joy and that shares the video with the world. Or something like that. Who knows? And don't forget that every single Friday, or just about every Friday, I Twitch stream at twitch.tv/JamesMontemagno, where I build out real world applications live. I just keep going every single week, new things. I'm currently building out a clone of a fitness application based on Peloton. So definitely check that out. Anyways, I want to thank you all for your time. I really look forward to all of your comments below, and thanks for watching.